Hello everyone. So we are back with Winslow Homer and his beautiful watercolors. This one is the fog coming in, and we're going to be talking about watercolor technique and watercolors together today. So what you're going to need is you're going to need your watercolors, a brush, and some water. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So, you've been in the classroom. If you're in the third grade, you haven't had me in the classroom yet. But my fourth graders should know that it is always about the water in watercolors. So that means we aren't digging into our colors. We're thinking about every time we put the water on the project. It's always water, paint, paper. We're going to start at the sky today, and I'm actually not going to use any color. So I am just going to put some water on my sky up here. And this is a technique that we call wet on wet. So my paper is going to be wet with water. And then after that, I am going to dip my brush into my blue. And I'm going to start at the very top because mine is going to run a little bit. And I'm going to start to move that blue across. Again, water, paint, paper. You could take a little paper towel if it starts to drip too much. But mine normally drips because my paper is hanging here. So this is wet on wet that we are doing here. And again, you want to make sure that your water is coming across the paper, not up and down. That's a tornado, I always tell you. So up and down. It's not okay. It is a cross. And you want to leave this area white because that's your fog bank. That's what's coming in. And because I normally want two colors, I'm going to take then just a little bit of purple in my palette. And just at the very top, again, it's wet. So I'm adding just that little bit of purple across the sky. And it's kind of mixing because that paper is wet. I can kind of bring it in. Like that. So I've got a little bit of blue and a little bit of purple on that side. And then you can kind of just take your brush and kind of go in and work around these areas. And kind of move that paint around. So that it's hitting that fog. Okay. Then I talked a little bit about this is our mixing side of our palette. So you all have this section here and this. So this is where we mix. So I'm going to take a little bit of water and put a little bit of water in here. And I'm going to take a little bit of my blue that I just used, and I'm going to mix that in there. Very good. And then I'm going to take just like one dab of the black. Okay, and that's going to make it pretty dark. So then I may have to go back and put more blue in it so I get it a little softer. You've got to be careful of that black. It's like it takes the color out of everything. It kills everything. That's why I always say it's always the last color we use. So I have a nice little dark blue there. And this particular ocean in the back This should be darkest. So again, I'm kind of adding that color across here. And if you can kind of make that color kind of so that it's curvy, we're going to come all the way down there with this color. So we're doing what we call laying a base coat. Then I'm going to go down and use just the blue that I used before and just water paint paper. So every time into the water, every time into the paint. And again, I'm kind of looking for, I'm coming down to that next line down there for it to just be that base coat. And if you seem to have too much paint, you can always get a little bit of water to kind of move that paint around. And you can put on a second coat if you think it's too light. So this is wet on dry paper. So wet on wet, wet on dry, and wet on dry. Then again down here, I'm going to do what we did in the front, in the back. I am going to wet that paper for the front. I have a little area there that I'm going to do in a minute. And this one I want to kind of make what I call a turquoise color. So I'm going to mix a little bit of the green with a little bit of the blue in here for a turquoise color. So we'll start at the top again. And you're going to have a rhythm in that color because this blue in here is that blue. And the blue in here is that blue. So you're creating your palette of colors from that continued use of that blue. And there's lots of white water here, so this is a perfect example of when you can use your paint but leave some areas white because it's not going to really affect. It's going to look kind of cool. So that's why I've left it just a little bit white. Okay. All right. Next thing I'm going to go for is some of the dark areas of the brown. So I'm going to dip into my brown here. In this area. And these were the little seats that came across. Outside here. Remember that you can stop this video at any time. I'm going to do this one a really kind of darker brown so that it offsets from what I have going on in there. So this is all the side of the boat. Okay, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint our beautiful fish. And I'm using, again, that color. I just don't have as much water in it. So it's definitely the blue with the green. Now, in the original picture, the halibut is a little bit whiter, but I really want to cause contrast here. So I'm going to go into the top and make it blue. So this is the second fish, so that it sets off a little bit. Just like that. Okay, decisions on what color I should make his hat and his rain jacket. So he's got a brown with a red rain jacket. Okay, but I have a lot of choices as far as what I want to do as far as his rain jacket. A lot of times these are yellow so that they can be seen, or more orangish. So remember, like, we're copying this or we're being inspired by this, but it is not our, we do not have to follow it exactly. You know, you need to have some of the ability to create on your own a portion of it. So today, and you can choose your color. You could do red, you could do more yellow, more orange. You could do, brown's hard to do because your boat has a lot of brown in it and it's going to blend all into it. And I can give them a little yellow hat. So that if they do fall into the water, they can be easily seen. So remember that he is looking out towards this boat. He's caught halibut for the day. He's looking out towards that boat, trying to get back there. Okay, so then I'm going to use, again, a little wet on wet. I'm going to do this area in here, and here, and here, and here. I put a little bit of water because I'm going to do it black, but I don't want it super black. I want it just to have a little roughness to it. And feel free to, you know, kind of add some of those details. Then the last thing I'm going to do on the boat part is the barrel. And we don't quite know what's in that barrel. I'm going to put some black on there, and then I'm going to put some brown over it. If you put the black over the brown, it tends to take away all of the brown. And you can go back in and put a second coat. So, you know, your boat is made out of wood. So you can put little details in here, little lines in here to kind of show the wood or the dimension in it. You notice I'm holding my paintbrush back a little bit here. So there. And then I'm going to go ahead and make it pretty dark. So I mixed a little bit of black and a little bit of brown for this oar. I gave you in your kits is great to get around those areas. If you want to give him a little black or brown beard, you can in here. The very last thing I'm probably going to do is a lot of times on these, I won't actually go in and try to paint the face. I'll go in after it's all dry with a little bit of a pencil and put a little bit of color in there. Or I'll take a little bit of water and a little bit of brown, but not much, get that color there. Okay, so let's talk the second coat of the water. So my back area, I used a black and a blue. And again, I want these to look like waves. So I'm going to put some water and some blue on there. And I'm going to kind of just wave it. I'm waving my paintbrush back and forth. Kind of trying to feel like it is blowing in the wind, the water. And remember, that's the same blue that I used when I mixed it with the black. And then the same thing is, going down below, I'm adding a second coat, very lightly that it's flowing across here, and there. And then this one, I'm going to come in and just use that white paper in the background and kind of fill in. And like I said, you can have as much freedom as you want with this. And again, I'm going to come down here. Waving that paintbrush around. I'm holding it in the back, and I'm just waving it kind of around the thing. Almost like I'm scribbling, but it's kind of giving us that feeling of that water moving. So, the very last thing, if you want to do it, is you can create a little bit of a border, or as if it were a frame, by going around the bottom of your paper. But this is not required. I had to create this frame because it's really hard for you to see the background, see my drawing and the whiteboard. So sometimes we have to do things just to be able to it adds a nice little touch on it. You could also do it after it's dry in black Sharpie. And there you have it, Fog Warning by Winslow Homer. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. But this is a really fun kind of masterpiece project that we did together today. And I'm so excited that I was able to share it with you. So thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you again next week.